Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to my second viewer variance video. I'm your host, Doodleman149, and in today's video, I'll be showcasing a build that was offered by my #1 Twitch viewer, Jughead. He offered up what is basically the fastest close-range FAL build available. I really like the FAL, but I know in my heart that I'm going to dislike this build. I feel like the recoil is going to be too high, and it won't work too well at mid-range where this weapon is meant to excel. But despite those reservations, I'm sure I'll still be able to get good clips for all of you. I would again like to remind everyone of my ratings chart. This is only the second episode of viewer variance, but I'll include this chart in every one of these videos just for reference. Enough delaying though, let's hop into this suggested speedy FAL. For Jughead's masterful FAL build, we'll start off in the barrel section with the 13-inch OSW barrel, this weapon's short barrel, for boosted movement and ADS speed at the cost of range and recoil control. Next, the 5mm laser is used to greatly boost our hipfire accuracy while also boosting our sprint out speed. After that, we remove this weapon's stock to double down on the boosts from the short barrel. The 30-round magazines allow for a ton of powerful rounds to be fired at the enemy, all while costing us a little movement speed. And lastly, the Merc foregrip helps to increase our vertical recoil control and hipfire control. This build is just not that great. The stubby barrel, the 13-inch OSW barrel, doesn't seem like a good attachment in general. The FAL is a precision rifle mostly, and while it can certainly be spammed, especially with those 30-round magazines, this weapon works best when you can land precise headshots and upper torso shots. Since the short barrel increases recoil and reduces range, this attachment seems to work against everything this weapon was made for. To be fair, the movement speed boost is nice, but not worth the downsides. Removing the stock just further reduces accuracy, making it even harder to play effectively. Combining these two attachments basically means this weapon has to become a spam cannon. The Merc foregrip is thankfully a good attachment on this gun. It helps to mitigate some of the increased recoil from the two previously mentioned attachments, but it can only do so much. The 5mm laser just feels like a final tacked on attachment that serves little purpose. It keeps hipfire tighter, something that works well with the Merc foregrip, but the FAL isn't really great in the hipfire department. Hipfiring the FAL means you've definitely going to be having a bad time. For use in Domination, this build receives a 3 out of 10. The higher movement speed and smaller maps lend themselves better to this build than most modes. This weapon isn't great for mid to long range because of the bad recoil properties. It just doesn't shine anywhere except for being fast. Speed doesn't mean much if you can't hit your target. While I didn't personally test this build out here, for Ground War, this build is going to receive a 2 out of 10. Where the small maps can work for this build, Ground War's maps are all too big and the ranges are too long for this build to work well. While there are certainly some spaces in some maps, primarily the interiors of buildings, that this build can get kills in, for the most part, this build is very bad for that mode. The same criticisms apply to Warzone then, where this build gets a 2 out of 10. It's not even worth considering for that mode. And that'll do it for my short second viewer variant video. So should you use the Jughead FAL? Absolutely not. This build is very bad. While the individual attachments aren't bad alone, it's the combo of all these attachments that makes this build basically unviable. This build has few things going for it. It's fast, it still has FAL damage, and it has a larger magazine. However, its recoil is atrocious, its range is bad, and the irons aren't that great with the short barrel and the no stock. This build was a troll build. I know it was. As soon as I read the chat message, I knew he was just messing with me. That being said, this wasn't fun to test at all. I knew it would be bad, hence the gross paint job and the stickers. So good work, Jughead. You've officially claimed my lowest weapon rank so far with an overall rating of 1 out of 10. This build functions in the essence that it fires bullets with potential to kill. Other than that, this build is basically useless and I recommend avoiding it. So thank you all for making it to the end here. I'd like to remind you all that you're free to offer up weapon builds for me to try, and I'll make a video on your weapons. At most, I'll take 2 weapons at a time per viewer so that I can reasonably use them on a single class if need be. I thank you all for your time. I really appreciate all of you hanging around this long. You're all awesome. I'm your host, Doodleman149, and I will see you later.